So if you're interested about coming to live in Japan, chances are you've come across people online talking about how, oh, my apartment in Tokyo costs $800 a month or $600 a month or even $400 a month. And while those numbers sound great and actually very accessible, the truth is that those figures that they give you might be a little bit misleading sometimes. Because in reality, there are many costs and fees that come with renting an apartment in Japan that they don't tell you about until it's actually time to sign your lease. And so today in this video, I'll be breaking down 10 hidden costs that come with renting an apartment, particularly in Tokyo, Japan, so that you don't get blindsided when it's time to sign your contract. Now, for those of you who might be new, my name is Gabriel. I've been living in Tokyo, Japan for 7 years, where I currently run and manage my own business. And in this channel, I like to share my experience and useful information about life in Japan, particularly from an entrepreneurial point of view. And so if you find that interesting and you'd like to learn more, then make sure you subscribe and stick around. But now let's move on to the actual costs of renting an apartment in Tokyo, Japan. Now, for the sake of consistency, let's assume you've done your homework, you've worked with a real estate agency in Japan, and they found a great apartment for you in a great neighborhood in the city for 60,000 yen. And so we'll keep that figure in mind and we'll be adding all the additional costs as we go over them so that you get a better idea of how much you'll actually have to pay at the end of the whole process. But don't be surprised, because the price of rent is actually just the beginning. And here's what you actually have to pay for. The first hidden fee, or the first additional cost you have to keep in mind, is what here in Japan we call key money, or in Japanese, reikin, which quite literally means thank you money or gratitude money. And just as the name implies, it's actually a gift that you're giving to the landlord as a thank you for allowing you to rent their property. And because it's a gift, most of the time it's actually non-refundable, so you're just going to give that money away, you're never going to see it again, so let it go and get over it. Now, this is a one-time payment and it's usually going to be between 1 to 2 months of rent, but it's really going to depend on the landlord, on the neighborhood, and even on the agency you're working with, because some places actually don't require this. That means you could find a landlord that says, I don't need any key money, but the rent is going to be this much or that much. But you'll find that those who actually do ask for key money, in the vast majority of cases, it's going to be non-refundable and also non-negotiable. So whether it's 1 month of rent or 2 months of rent, that money is just never coming back. And you'll find that it's actually a lot more common in the higher end areas of the city. And now for our second additional cost, we're actually talking about your security deposit. Now I know that's a lot more common and it does happen in many other places around the world, but here in Japan we call it shikikin. And this money is actually going to act as a form of insurance for any possible damages that the property could have or any unpaid rent. Now it's not unheard of that some foreigners come into the country, get into a lease contract for an apartment, and then one day they just vanish. They just disappear without paying all the rent. And so they leave all that burden to the landlord, to the real estate agency as well. And so lately they've been becoming a lot more strict when it comes to the security deposit, even though of course it is still refundable at the end of your stay, minus any possible deductions for repairs or cleaning fees. Now keep in mind, the return policy on your security deposit is going to vary depending, once again, on the neighborhood, on the landlord, on the agency, because there are some places that are a lot more strict than others. Just an important thing to keep in mind. And now for a third point, we'll actually cover your basic insurance. And here in Japan, that's basically going to cover any water damage, any water leaks or damage to the property as a whole. Now, in some cases, you'll find that this is actually bundled together with fire insurance as well, but that's not always the case. And fire insurance will also be covered a little bit later in this list. And like many of the points we'll cover in today's video, this one also has to be paid upfront, and it's generally going to be between 15 to 30,000 yen for 2 years. So little by little now, you start to get an idea of how the amount of money you have to pay every month starts to climb up. And now for our next point, we're talking about the cleaning fee. Now here in Japan, I'm not sure how it might work in other places around the world, but here in Japan, after you move out, there's a cleaning crew that comes to the apartment to do a deep cleaning of the entire property. This is also non-negotiable, and sometimes it will just be deducted from your security deposit. But again, that's not always the case. So you have to make sure that you read your contract properly to understand what those terms are. And this, once again, it's going to be a one-time payment, and the price is actually going to vary depending on the size of the apartment, but it can generally range between 20 to 50,000 yen. And so like I said before, sometimes this might come out from your security deposit, but sometimes you'll have to pay that additional fee on top of the actual security deposit. So just make sure you read the fine print before you actually sign. And now for our next point, we're talking about the management fee of the property as a whole, the Kandi-hi. And this is generally a payment that's done every month in addition to your rent and all the other services that covers the basic and general maintenance, security, repairs and cleaning of the whole building, the public areas of the building and so on. So think about the elevators, the general public spaces, the stairs, the cleaning, the security, and all those other things. And now, of course, depending on the building, on the neighborhood, and the area of the city, this could range from 2,000 yen to over 10,000 yen per month. Now, keep in mind, this actually does not cover any of your personal utilities or your personal maintenance fees. This is just for the public areas of the building. So once again, the price gets a little bit higher. And now for point number 6, we actually come to your utilities. That's going to be your water, gas and electricity expenses. And particularly if you're renting an apartment here in Tokyo, these 3 are going to be billed separately. And in some cases, you can also have TV and even internet added as options to these services as well. Now, of course, at the end of the month, how much you're going to pay is going to greatly depend on your actual quality of life, but you can expect it to range anywhere from 10,000 to 25,000 yen per month. That seems to be the general average in the city. And now for our next point, assuming you've worked with a real estate agency here in Japan, you're going to have to pay the agency fee, your chukai tesuryo. That's what you actually have to pay the agent or the agency for their services and for actually finding your apartment. And in most cases, that's going to be 1 month of rent plus taxes. And generally here they ask that you pay that fee before moving in and not after. Now, of course, once again, this is just a one-time payment, but it's an important thing to keep in mind. Now, I know that in some other areas of Japan, they actually hold campaigns or promotions where they completely waive the agency fee, but I believe that's a little bit more rare here in Tokyo, at least in my experience. And now point number 8 is going to be your maintenance fee, and this is actually going to cover any repairs or any work that needs to be done on the publicly used facilities. Think roofs, pipes, walls, hallways and things like that, and it's not always related to the management fee that I mentioned in number 5. This is a lot more common in condos or buildings of higher end in the city, and sometimes it could be covered under the same umbrella as the management fee, but not always. So once again, you have to make sure that you read your contract carefully to understand what you need to pay. But in general, that's not going to be overly expensive. It could be around 2,000 or 3,000 yen per month. And now for point number 9, we have your actual fire insurance. Now here in Japan, fire insurance is generally an umbrella term used to cover any kind of damage. That includes fire damage, water damage, earthquake damage, or any other kind of natural damage to your property. And it's mandatory for all tenants. And that's typically going to cost anywhere between 10,000 to 20,000 yen for 2 years of coverage. And often, in most cases, that's also going to be arranged directly through your real estate agency. So it's fairly straightforward to set up, but once again, just another nudge that makes the price go a little bit higher. And now for point number 10, we have finally the guarantor fee. Now, this is something you are definitely going to have to do if you don't have a Japanese co-signer for your lease contract. Now, this means you're actually going to have to hire someone from a guarantor company and actually have some kind of liability, some kind of guarantee that, once again, like I mentioned earlier, you're not just going to vanish and leave the country without paying what you have to pay. And so this fee actually goes to the guarantor company and not to the landlord. This is a fee that's generally going to be renewed annually, and it can be anywhere from 30% to 100% of 1 month of rent. And once again, that's going to vastly depend on the neighborhood, on the actual conditions of the building, the real estate agency, and the guarantor company itself. So there you have it. For your 60,000 yen apartment, this is how much you're actually going to have to pay when you first move in with all upfront fees. And this is how much you're actually going to have to pay every month with all additional costs included. Just so that you have a better idea and a better image of the actual costs of renting an apartment here in Tokyo, Japan. And so that you keep an eye out there for the figures that they're throwing at you and actually ask yourself, what are the hidden costs behind that? And if you'd like to learn more about life in Japan, then make sure you watch this video right here. So don't miss it, and I'll see you next time.